talk about file management. So you kind of saw me do a whole bunch of things, and those whole bunch of things really came out pretty fast, right? And you guys are going to get into, once you're in practice of doing this sort of stuff, you're going to be duplicating layers and copying and pasting things in very, very frequently. So you need to learn how to control this so that it doesn't come out looking the way it does right here. Because you're going to get into the position where now I need to say, I need to select this bush on the left, right? Because I don't like it, I want to get rid of it. But I don't remember what layer it is. So I need to go through and start turning things on and off. So I go to here, layer 12, that's not it. Layer 13, that's not it. Layer, no, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. Oh, that is it. Okay. All right, so I found it, right? That takes a long time to do that. But there are some things you can do. I mean, obviously, naming conventions are really important. So I've got four, yellow shrubs or something like that. So I can call this, whoops, sorry. Whatever. Let's rename that. What did I do? There we go. I'm going to call this shrub yellow A. And then, whoops, I did not mean to do that. I mean, this is the real tedious part. I'm not going to sit you guys through all of it, but shrub yellow B, shrub yellow C, and shrub yellow D. Okay, so I've got my four shrubs, right? They're the only four shrubs that are in the rendering. So you're going to wind up with a whole bunch of layers, right? And I'm going to show you the general organization of a bunch of different components and how you might want to organize them. But generally, when I organize this stuff, I'll put like foliage entourage into one folder. I'll put people entourage into another folder, object entourage into another folder. But I'm going to probably split this out. Well, maybe I'll just, since there's not that much in it, I'll just do my foliage entourage folder. But if you have a really detailed rendering, there's nothing wrong with having a grass folder, a shrub folder, a tree folder, or any, like a vines folder if you have vines on the wall. Any number of things that you want to do, you can do. So these four things I'm going to put in a folder, and if you can't really see it, you probably can't. At the bottom of the layers menu, there's a little folder looking button. It's kind of hard to miss if you know what a folder looks like, but it's this one right here. You just click that and it makes a group. Okay, there's nothing in that group right now. I need to call it what I want to call it, so I'm going to call this one foliage. So if I want to load that folder with my layers, I just need to select the layers, drag them onto the foliage folder name, and it puts it inside the folder. Okay, so now I can sort of collapse that and I don't see any of the shrub layers. It's really important that you guys learn to use this stuff. But be aware that these layers have to be organized in their actual orientation. So unfortunately, I have a tree that, well, I guess everything is above this, isn't it? Oh no, we have grasses below. Yeah, we do. So if I take, let me show you as an example. I have grasses that are supposed to be below the building. If I take these three elements, oh wait, they are above currently. Where's the one that's below? This one, the dirt. If I take that and I put the dirt in the foliage folder, it gets brought up in front of the building itself. So what I'll usually do is I'll have like a folder that's called, basically, I guess, well, you call it a base. Let me go back to that. So I'll take, I'll put a folder back here and I'll call this one base. Okay, base means that is the rendering that I input. Okay, or it's the duplicate of the rendering that I input that has the reveal mask and everything that cuts everything off. Okay, so that would be this. Base goes in that folder, and even if I have duplicates of the base or anything like that, that'll go there. The background stays as the background, but I'll put another folder back here, and this one will be, whoops, This one will be background elements. Okay, so that's different than the background itself. The background elements are, like shrubs or grasses or the dirt layer or anything that needs to be. I don't think this even made its way into the rendering. So I'll just grab these layers. I'll put that in background. Put this one in background, but that one's off. But I want it to be on the backgrounders layer. So I can turn off, or rather collapse backgrounders. I can collapse the base. I can collapse foliage. But there are other layers of foliage that I need to account for. So just make sure that you go through and you start to organize the folders and name the layers. That's really important. So even if I open this up, I mean, the base is so simple, the naming doesn't matter that much. But if I go into the background elements, I don't really know what layer 11 is versus layer 2. I mean, I kind of do because there's only 2. But I'm going to rename layer 11. So it is the background dirt. Layer 2 is going to be sky B. Layer 1 is sky A. So on and so forth. And you want to just go through the process of naming anything that needs to be named. So layer 12 happens to be my grass base background. Layer 13 is my back edging, and layer 13 copy is back edging. I should call that grass back edging, because I won't know that it's grass oriented. And this one will be grass side edging. Not that it needs to be separate layers, but until, as a general rule, I don't merge layers until there's a reason to merge them, if that makes any sense. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But like, I find flexibility in the fact that if I wanted to turn that off, all I have to do is turn the eyeball off. Or if it gets like too complicated and there are way too many of these grass edges, then I'll collapse a few. So that's my foliage layer. I'll just take those, drop them in, they disappear. So you need to go up and sort of do that for a bunch of different things. I don't remember what this overlay alpha was for, but it's not on, so I'm going to get rid of those. This is one of the lens flare options that I put in, but I didn't edit it, so I'm just going to get rid of that. But I do want a folder for all of the lens flares that I did generate. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to make a lens flare layer. Put that there. Okay, and there's a reason I put that there. Is because that is going to be above everything else that happens in my image, generally. It'd be a surprise if there was a reason for your lens flare not to be. So the other thing is I have this other layer 3 that I sat as an overlay, and it's supposed to be an overlay on top of that. It was in the wrong position. So I'm going to go make another folder. I'm going to call this one masking overlay, or you could call it a texture overlay. I like the idea of a texture overlay better. So all of these layers are going to go in texture overlay. For stuff like lens flares and texture overlays, generally it's a full field image, so that thumbnail is informative enough. I'll usually not worry about if it says a layer number on those, because it's not really that important. I don't need to say cork option versus canvas option or something like that, unless you want to, but I generally know what they are when I put them in. So I guess long story short, we have a few things here. I said there's base foliage, and then there's base background, and this one was the tree. I'll call this trunk. I'll just call it trunk cover, and I'll put that in foliage. I put that in foliage. Good point. So I put that in foliage, and then it disappeared. That's because it went to the bottom of the foliage folder, so I need to move that back up to the top of the foliage folder. Okay, so that it happens above the grass. Does that make sense? You guys get that? Okay, so and then I've got my tree, which is probably going to do the same thing. If I drop it in the foliage folder, it's going to go to the back, and the trunk disappears. So I need to move that back just underneath the trunk cover. Yeah? You guys following? So the order matters. The grouping order matters too. So it's not just like, you can't just put all of your items directly in there. So one important example is if you're doing interior foliage. Interior foliage is generally going to be clipped by your alpha mask, and you're going to want to put that, well, not clipped by it. I mean, you're going to have your base, that's this, is going to cover it, and then wherever that foliage happens, like all this grass down there, that's going to clip it just by the essence of it being your base. So your interior foliage goes under your base as a background element. Or you could do background elements and then a folder for background foliage if you need to, if you have enough of them. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So anyway, I guess that's all I've really got for file management. I just want you guys to be in the practice of creating folders, naming your layers, and organizing things in terms of relativity to your base. I think that that's really important, at least as you're starting out. Okay. Any questions? All right. Cool. Let's have at it.